Morning Legends and Super Legends. Trying to activate this light so you guys can see me. We're heading out. We're gonna get some flicks for you, Paul's here. I don't know if you guys can even see. Sometimes this thing does not. Well, there's not enough light. Over there. A lot of times. So let's roll, man. All right. On this ride, Paul and I left Northampton about 5:50 in the morning, headed out to the Woodlands to pick up Team RR. After we picked them up, we headed down Research Forest to Fishcreek. We picked up Mike on Fishcreek. The ride really heated up there. The speeds went up, and we did some sprints and attacks on an overpass, and then we got to Montgomery, stopped at a store, but we split up. Part of the group was going further out. We came back through Keenan. We took the Grand Lake Estates and came back to Honia Egypt Road and all the way back into the Woodlands. So it was a steadier pace on the way back, but the entire ride was interesting. We got home about 10:45 in the morning. So it was really quick, but lots of action. So I hope you'll enjoy the clips. Well, it crashed pretty heavily the first day, so it's hard to recover. It's a good thing he was able to crash. Yeah, Victor and I are talking about loss of credit. Yep. He's from the Houston area in the Tour de France 2018. Hard crash. He hung in there after his crash. So we're checking. I usually only ride this bike on the weekend. I'm the same gear I was when I redid that KOM. What am I doing? Victor and I did a Strava KOM last Sunday, a ride following Saturday ride on 1488. That's what he's talking about. He said he left the bike in the same gear. And he said, no wonder I was tired. Yeah, Victor and I rode back together on Sunday, after Sunday's ride, because he lives pretty close. I think I mentioned it. This is Alden Bridge South. This is where we go across Research Forest when we do that shoot home. This is the way we go back home. Saturday. Yeah, Paul and I ride out here. We used to ride out here a lot. And this is part of the loop we used to do. I was just kind of helping him get his bearings. But the Woodlands, you can get turned around here. The streets they're not in a grid. They weave and turn in all directions. A lot of shoehorn streets. S-curve and so forth. I'm staying on the road. I turned them on when I got into the parking lot. They're so bright, and when you stop the bottom. Michael's asking me if I'm trying to save power because my lights are off, and I'm explaining to him that I turn off my rear lights. Plus, in the group, there's so many of us. I save the power that way anyway. So that way when I'm going home solo, I can turn it on. But exactly. Since we've been hooking up with these guys, once I get to them, I turn it off. We got so many lights in the group anyway. That's what Michael's asking. Blueless patch. I think I do have stocks of it. Yeah, I have 2 tubes. And the blueless patch, I figured. Michael had a flat. Was the guy that had the flat last week? So he's talking about what he put in his patch kit now since the flat. He's got some boots. Man, he said he made some boot out of the tire. So he's got his tire, his new tire, and it's ready to go. Yeah, it's good to have it. I don't like to have mechanicals on rides, so during the week, I check my bike. After the rides on the weekends, I use Mondays for maintenance for the most part. Maintenance Mondays has a good ring to it. I use that to make sure whatever bike I will use or have been using is in top condition. Preventive maintenance. That's Michael on my left. So he was the one that had the blowout last week. So I ended up giving him a boot that I cut out of an old tire to use. I hand the camera to Paul here. It's early in the ride, so I've got my cadence up. helps wake up my system. If you're riding with a group and at this point in the ride you're struggling, that means the group is way above your level. And so you got two options. Make sure you drive real tightly, or just, keep riding, work harder, and eventually you will improve. Because at this point in the ride, it should not be difficult. That's why you see everybody spread out in twos and so forth. We're chatting. It should be difficult. If it is, then yeah, you need to make sure you don't pull. You just sit in as best as possible. And you may not even be able to sit in when they pick up the pace, but that happens. Everybody's been there. It's no big deal. But don't quit the group because they're super fast. What you want to do is do the best you can every time you go out with them. And then when you're not with them, you continue to ride and you will improve.
Did you get any rides this week?
I rode just last weekend, last Saturday. Couldn't get that.
That's Mark and Paul talking there. Just let you listen in.
I work on a crossing department with United Airlines.
Which department?
Pricing. It's a group pricing over by L Boulevard and Bellway 8. Yeah.
Pretty close to the airport.
Yeah.
Paul works with United Airlines in one of the off-airport offices within range of the airport, but off-site, and that's what he's talking to Mark about.
Been on United for so long.
Yeah.
And they're direct everywhere.
So what do you do?
I'm in sales.
Oh, okay.
So I work with neurologists,
Oh, okay.
offices. I have like a really big territory, so it's hard for me to ride during the week. I
Yeah.
got out once this week though.
Yeah. But usually I just spin at home.
Do you?
That's where, yeah. That's where I get most of my
That
time.
makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Get one of those new Peloton bikes or Bobby trainers.
No, I use this same bike I'm riding here. Spinner.
Mark was asking Paul whether he had, because Paul had said he does most of his training during the week spinning at home. And Mark asked if Paul had one of the Peloton bikes they advertise. I prefer to ride my own bike. They're yet to make a bike that I will give up my fitted bike for. So I prefer to mount my bike on a trainer. I mean, they have trainers where you can take the rear tire off and just hook up your drivetrain. That's just as good. But I want my butt on my saddle. I want my feet in my pedals so that there are no surprises. I don't want to get a twinge in my knee because I'm riding something else. Because when I put that bad boy in a gear and I'm powering it, I don't want to twist anything because something's different. So I was taught that when I used to compete by my coach. He said, you need to ride the bike that you're going to use. Even if you got multiple bikes, you get them all fitted and then you ride them so that you don't have any surprises. So I don't subscribe to riding a different bike because, get on like an ergometer or something that's different or set up in another way. You've got to try. If you can replicate your position, fine. But it's just better to put your bike. Most serious riders, even if you got one of the new fancy stuff, you put your bike on it, take the rear wheel off, whatever you got, use your actual bike. It's just very specific. Because we're pedaling so fast under different loads, you don't want to twist something because something's off. So, I prefer to just mount my bike on the trainer. I don't train online. I don't have any of that software to ride with other people like they have on Zwift. Some people use them. It seems to work for them. If it works for you, great. But I don't spend that much time collaborating when I'm riding. I focus and get my workout done and go do something else. That's why you see me riding 4 hours plus on Saturday. Saturday and Sunday, that's when I can do more hours. During the week, they're short and they're focused. And when I have extra time during the week, yeah, I'll ride long. But right now it's summer, the kids are home, I'm busy. So, you know, I stay with my routine as much as possible, but fewer hours. That's why we did the hours in the winter and early spring. They're in the bank. We're slowing down here, and then we come to the corner, and I think we're going straight because people stop, but it turns out that we're going right. I end up having to ask if we're turning because there's no car coming. We got the right lane, but people stop. So I moved left thinking we're going straight. Right there, I asked if we're turning, and he said, yeah. I was thinking, why did we stop? The right lane's clear. So. And then I remember somebody said Mike is waiting for us about a quarter mile or so, maybe half mile up the road, about a kilometer, let's say, up the road at a Kroger. He's met us here before because where you see the red lights up there, Mike lives west of there to the left. That's west. We're headed north right now. So he rides to this intersection, and there is a Kroger on the corner, and that's where he meets us. But he's usually ready to go, and then for some reason we end up turning into the parking lot this week. We could have just gone straight, and you'll see it. That's John on my right. John just got back from Colorado. He did the triple bypass ride, 122 miles thereabout. And he hadn't ridden with us since he got back. I think, yeah, this is his first ride with us since he got back. So we go through this intersection, and I notice people are turning in there. I didn't expect that because usually we just go straight. But Mike is up there where you see that sign up ahead. He's standing near the road waiting for us. And we turn.
Taking a break already?
So somebody asked if we're taking a break already. So I'm telling them that Mike is usually close to the road when he meets us up here. And I will show you where he is. We're going to turn left because the road we came off is to the left. So we just kind of came through here to look for him, but we didn't need to. So we turn back left, and you'll see he's already on the road. Right there, that's Mike. He's on the road. He was waiting for us there. We could have just gone straight. So he's ahead now.
Last time we picked him up, he was ready to go.
That's what I told him the last time. He was right here on the right, that little driveway. That's why he was standing waiting for us the last time. So probably the person at the front wasn't aware, that's all. No big deal. But this is where the ride begins. As soon as we turn here, because Mike and them are already up the road, and Mike rolled up here from where he lives, so he's warmed up. And the speed's changing now. That's kind of how when you ride with a group, you got to pay attention to that. Speed's picking up a bit. I just told Paul, I don't know why we went in there. He's usually waiting for us, but that's fine. see me moving left and right, I'm looking around to see what's going on up there. I don't like to ride directly behind. I want to see around the riders. We heard this week that there is an ordinance in Houston that has been in effect. You have to pass cyclists with 3 feet of space when you're in a vehicle, and that is going to be enforced more religiously. It was announced on the local news. Because it's summer, everybody's out, people are out riding, whatever. So I think a lot of drivers are either not aware of it or just don't really pay attention. So there's an officer that has some equipment that allows him to gauge the distance or tell the distance that a driver passes a cyclist. That should give us 3 feet. It's 36 inches or 1 meter thereabouts. They do that when they pass parked cars. I don't know why they like to pass cyclists close. So the city's going to be enforcing that, mostly for people that ride in town. We don't have problems out here too much. That's Victor on the end, the last rider. I didn't get the name of the guy in front of Victor. But he rode with us last week as well, and he took a longer route. Last Sunday he came out on the Sunday ride. If you look at the speeds now, we're doing 35 kilometers an hour. I guess it's probably about 22 thereabouts. It's still not hard for me anyway at this point. But this is a decent speed. It's picking up. And we have different levels of fitness in this group. Ended up being a big group today. And you will see as things get interesting in a few moments, we split up into 3 groups on the highway. It just happens, you know, it's just the way it is. I'm sitting to the left. We can use the entire right lane if we chose to. We stay as far to the right as we can, gives us more room when cars go by. But in a group like this, I'd stay to the left or to the right so I can see around the riders, because this lane is ours. And with this size group, we're not going to get anybody passing in this lane. I don't want to ride directly behind because it would be like riding blind per se. It's always good to see around. The road is slightly downhill at this point. Flat to slightly downhill. And you can see the wind flipping my bandana. I have found that the bandana not only keeps the sweat out of my eyes very well. I liked it so much I got 3 other colors. That's the white one. I got white, I got blue, and orange. And then in addition to the yellow that I had. It keeps the perspiration from getting in my eyes, but it also allows the wind to get through because I can literally feel it on my head. I was very surprised. So that material, the Cool Max material, is very good. Make sure you get breathable. If you're going to get one of those, get a breathable pair because it makes a difference. And get one that does not have an elastic in the front. That's just a cloth, and I tie a knot and flip that extra. They have an extra piece that goes over it. And what I was going to say, it keeps my spine, your neck, from getting so much sun beating on it. That's what I've noticed since I started wearing it. I actually stay cooler with it on. I had given the link to Alan and to Paul. Paul went ahead and got him few of those as well. He's wearing a red one today. I'm looking back for cars because we're going downhill here. Speeds are picking up. I'm a big guy. You see like Michael there? I descend faster than Michael without even pedaling. You can see 0 RPMs. I'm coasting and I catch up. If I don't do that, I have to hit my brakes too frequently. I don't want to do that. So I used the road. There was a car coming, so now I moved back to the shoulder. So if you're going to be doing that, if you're going to use the main lane, either you're going to take the lane, or if you're planning on, you have a shoulder and you want to go on and off, when you're in that lane, you need to keep your eye out for traffic. Don't sit there unaware. Because this shoulder's wide enough, we don't need to use the main lane. So when I was there, I was watching all the time. And I moved back onto the shoulder long before traffic picked up. At this point here, this lane becomes 2, but there is a construction sign on the right, kind of encroaches. That's why you saw me wave my hand. It's been sitting there. I don't see any construction that they're doing. It's almost like they forgot about it. It's just been there for months. When they were building the road up there, it was there. It just never, it's like they didn't come pick it up after they were done. Because there is no construction on this road. They're done. We make a joke in the Houston area. We see those barrels on the highway, and we say they just store them there because they have nowhere else to keep them. Because they're always working on some road in this town. Now right around here coming up, you see John is in front of me. John's going to launch an attack right there. He takes off. I just watch. He goes, he rides off the front. And Mike is at the front. Mike in a white jersey that we picked up. So Mike goes with John. And the two of them gaps the pack. In a short while, I let Paul know there's 2 up front. Because I can see, I moved to the left so I can see it. I let him know and I try to make sure we got it on film. But he was way ahead of me. When I mentioned it, he said, oh yeah, I told him 2 up there, 2 off the front. You can't hear what I said because of the wind, but he heard me. Paul's right behind me. Paul likes to follow me because he says that I ride smoothly and he doesn't get surprised, you know. And that's the thing, there they are. So that's the thing you have to do. You find a rider or riders that are smooth and not squirrely. And you can follow them because you don't have to pay as close as an attention versus following somebody who is all over the road. So it's a lot less stressful. I suggest that he put the camera up, but he said there they are. He said he's already done it. They're about probably 200 to 300 meters ahead. I'm estimating. So at this point, there are 2 groups on the road. Then Mark takes off. Mark's trying to bridge up to those guys. I'm watching the whole thing. At this point, I'm like, I don't want to expend any energy here. So Dan and Michael are talking. Then Paul H takes off. The guy in the white jersey on the left there, that's Paul H. Goes up to the front because our group lost its impetus after Mark tried to bridge. So I think Craig was there and the speed just kept dropping. So Paul H went up there, you notice the speed's picking up. And Paul is a guy in his 70s. He's pulling us, trying to bridge up to the breakaway. So those of you who are 40-year-olds on the channel, no excuses. You're a kid. You're 40, you're a kid. There's a 70-year-old pulling the group. And that light over there now, it turns green and it's short. So I tell you, that's my signal to Paul. We're going. I let everybody know we're taking this light because we're already in the intersection. We're doing about 40, well, it says 35. We're doing like 40K. So right as we go through the light, there's a lull because we want to make sure everybody made it. That's Scott in the left lane looking to make sure everybody made it. He asks, and you see Victor came up alongside me. Now, what's significant about this is Victor is what I call a heavy hitter. So when you ride in a group, you have to know who the strong guys are. That lull in the pace after the light separated the group. So Paul H, who was up there, is still up there. There he is in a white jersey. So we're rolling up to him. Michael starts to go up. I'm on Michael's wheel. Paul Ilonga is on my wheel. Mark never made it to those guys in his attempt to bridge up. So Mark is sitting there. Mark gets behind Paul H. I'm behind Michael. Michael's behind Mark. And Paul Ilonga is with the camera here. You see those guys are still up there. Same distance, they're not gaining any time. And so after noticing that, I decided that they're just burning energy out there, and I'm just gonna sit in and wait. You see, that's the third group on the road now. So the group I'm in here is behind the breakaway, and the rest of the guys are behind us. So that's three splits. We have three little groups on the road. The road's going up here. Yes, that's 2%. But if you watch my body, you can tell when I'm putting force in the pedals. I'm not doing much shifting. I'm just keeping my cadence in the 80s. I am in probably a 19 or something like that. 53, 19. I'm in a gear that I can spin faster and so forth, so I don't have to think about shifting. These hills are 4% or less, except for the overpass. The overpass is higher. It's like 5%, 5 to 6% in certain spots. So out here, I know the 19 is good enough for whatever's going to come. So Paul H is still pulling this whole stretch. The guys behind us are not going to catch us because we're really moving now. Remember what I said earlier is that when you get to a group, you got to identify who the heavy hitters are. Victor likes to go hard. He can sustain it. So at this point, with those guys hanging up there, not gaining any ground, it's clear to me that I know I can close the gap, but I decide I'm not going to do it until we get to the overpass. That's my plan anyway. They're sitting right up there. And our 70-year-old is dragging them in like a fish on a hook. Doing 36 kilometers an hour, 37, so forth. There's wind, it's up and down. It's not easy by any sense of the imagination. It's a good workout, and you notice I'm close to Michael's wheel because I know it's going to be harder on that overpass. And since in my mind I figure I'll close the gap on the overpass if it's still there, I'm making sure that I save my resources here. So Paul's done pulling. He pulls to the right. Mark is up there. Then Victor drops the hammer. passes Mark. So I move up, I get on Michael's wheel, he begins to speed up. It may look easy here, it's hard. We went from 36 to 45 kilometers an hour, that quickly. And that acceleration that you just saw was enough to reel those guys back in. So Paul Ilunga is on Paul H's wheel here. We still got the other group behind that you saw in the distance. That's what I mean when I say they're not going to catch us, because Victor just twisted a screw here. And he's closed the gap. That's the group. We've caught them. At this point, they're caught. You see Mike's white jersey. Everybody's together up there. So now we got two groups on the road. So that it just took one acceleration from Victor to close that. I was planning to do that on the overpass, but he had his own plan. So there's always stuff going on in the group. That's the cool thing about it. And for those of you who compete, that's the same thing. Everybody's got their plan. You may be trying to attack on a hill. Somebody else may attack in the valley before the hill or a mountain. And you got to be flexible. You can have your plan, but you got to adapt. So now that we're back together, I'm like, okay, there's nothing to close. Let's see what happens, because this road right here is going up. Watch. We press on the pedal. See the gap. You will see the gap open to Paul H here in a little bit. It says 2%. We're gonna press on, and we'll pull it, and he will pull us back. Right here. Right there. See the gap open? That's just power. And then he pulls us back, because there's a law. Every time they go over the thing, over the climb, that little bump, there's a law momentarily. So at this point, I'm in a gear that I know I can toss around. Basically, I own that gear, because that's a 5% overpass, and it's long. It's probably close to maybe 3/4 of a kilometer. And if you're gonna do a hard effort or something like that, you gotta be ready to not get bogged down, because the steepest point is almost, of course, near the top. So right here, I check for traffic, and I decide to go. And Victor decides to go. I didn't know that. So I kick to the left and drop the hammer. And I'm gone. I stood up the entire climb. I did the replay, and then I do it in slow motion so you can kind of see what I observed. So I'll talk about on the channel. Look at Victor's cadence. He's seated and he's muscling some gear. And look at my cadence. I slowed it down. That's slow motion. But that's what I mean. You've got to have the right gearing for the situation. Victor's a strong boy, but the laws of physics still apply. He just couldn't get that gear going fast enough, and I was gone, and then the hill got steeper. We're both up there. I'm in front, he's behind. If you look at my cadence, it's going down to 0. I'm coasting right now. I'm done climbing. These guys are still climbing. And so Victor said, good one, you know, and we chatted a little bit. And if you watch my cadence, I'm gonna pick it back up and just keep riding, because I'm already recovered. We're down there, we're done talking, and look my cadence. I just start the ride again. I start the ride and Victor drifts back, because it turns out he had planned to turn around early in the ride to go watch the time trial in the Tour de France. So this is where he decided to turn around. So these guys go around him. But we don't know at this point that he's turning around. We had heard him mention it in the parking lot, or I think it was on GroupMe, because they have a GroupMe app that they communicate. I think that's where it was. But we don't know if he's turned around. We know there's a third group back there. So all I'm doing here is I'm soft pedaling as they come closer. They go by, I stay to the right, and I'm looking for gaps. As soon as I find a gap, there's not a gap here, Paul's still there, then there's somebody behind Paul. I think Paul H is behind Paul. And so I get behind, I'm the last guy in the line. In a little bit, Paul turns the camera around. I give the peace sign. I got my jersey open because I'm trying to cool off after that effort on the overpass. Those long rides in the winter, in the rain, the cold, that's the benefit. I can go hard and in no time, I'm ready to ride again. At this moment here in the ride, I feel like I hadn't even done that effort. So your recovery improves with your conditioning. Base. We turn left here. The road goes up, so as soon as we turn, you will see me downshift. Just by feel. So Mike asked where the camera was, and Paul says right here. That's Paul H up there. At this point, there's a lull in the pace. There's always a lull in the pace in every ride. We're just kind of rolling. So half of that group that was behind is caught up. There's 3 guys back there, but there's still people back there. This is like a -3 degree downhill, and I decided to get in a tuck. That's how I like to descend. I can't fit between my saddle and my seat post like the pros do to sit on the top tube. I don't like to sit on the top tube. That position is more stable. It may not be as aerodynamic as the new positions they're adopting, but if I'm doing more than 50 miles an hour on a bicycle, I prefer to do that. The road goes up here. You will see me downshift. I don't know if it's right here or later, but I just ride by feel. If the gears feels like it's lagging, I find a lighter one, spin it faster. I'm not expending any energy here because at the corner up there, that's a regrouping point. I think I downshift somewhere here. Yeah, right there. When I downshift, I increase my cadence, so the speed stays about the same. So when you know what the group is going to stop, you don't want to expend too much energy. So Mark says stopping. It was a long wait here because we had put a lot of time on those guys back there in the third group. So I speed up part of this. I'm doing inventory here, making sure everybody's here, and we realize there's quite a few guys, a couple of guys back there. Ends up being Randy and Steve. There's Paul H back there. He did a lot of pulling or chasing. So here I speed this section up, then I slow it down because in a little bit we see some riders that are not riding with us. I asked Paul how he's doing. I gave him, he said he's feeling better.
I said it feels better.
So he said the effort feels better. I speed it up here, and here come, these are not the riders we're waiting on. Just other guys out riding. Kind of recumbent. But these are the guys we're waiting on. That's Randy. I don't have the name of this guy, the second guy there that was riding with Randy. But he gets up and he starts to mess with his wheel. And at this point, everybody's here. I'm ready to go. These guys are still chatting. I don't want to cool off. So I sneak between Mark and Michael. And I just decided to roll off. We've been waiting for a while. So now the same guy you saw playing with his wheel over there ends up in about 2 or 3 kilometers, dropping a chain on a climb. So he's having all kinds of challenges. That bike needs to go to the shop and get it checked and adjusted. Because something's wrong. He didn't just stop and unclip and play with the wheel for no reason. Something's off. So get your bike worked on middle of the week. So when you come to the group ride, you're ready to ride. Otherwise, you will just miss out.
Hey, somebody went left at, anybody see Victor?
You took a head count and Victor's missing because he didn't say anything to anybody.
I
He's
thought
only going to ride for an hour out and then an hour back, but we haven't been gone that long. That's why he was riding like this.
yeah, I mean, you went with him, and then he.
I just kept riding. He
Yeah.
fell back. Did he turn?
No, because I passed him after that.
So the reason why I said that's why he was riding like that is if you're only doing an hour, yeah, you can kill yourself because you know you're going back. And we're doing 4 hours here on this ride. So he's doing 2 hours, he's doing half what we're doing. So I said that's why he was riding like that.
Well, if you two stop playing, the ride will be comfortable.
Paul says if you two stop playing, the ride will be comfortable. And then I said, I didn't start it.
Going up that hill and he turned around. He needs to learn how to use the proper gear. Laws of physics. He stays in a big one. Yeah, you know what you were just to your point a couple weeks ago, you were spinning.
Yeah, what Mark is saying is that Victor stays in a big gear, and that's fine depending on the terrain, depending on the speed. You know, if you're in a time trial, you get in a big gear, you're rolling. That's different than if you're trying to sprint with somebody up a climb. It's just you can strain yourself, but you know, one big gear for another person might be comfortable for the next guy. So it's hard to say. You just have to make your selections and hope that you're choosing them right based on your training. At this point, Mark passes me because we were just kind of rolling, and he speeds up. He's gonna ride up. Some of the guys had already kind of gone ahead, that had gotten impatient, waiting. So Mark's riding up there. So I just pick up my pace a little bit and get on as we get up to him. So the group will make you ride faster than you normally do. Just generally. Besides the social benefit. Get with a group, find a group. It's good to do that from time to time. You don't need to ride every ride with them. Once a week is good. So you can ride by yourself and then come and test your mettle against the group.
Fishcreek.
Clear.
Clear
It's a four-way stop sign. It's clear. The street to the left is a dead-end street. We rolled through the stop sign. There's a couple of rolling hills up ahead. I think I'm in the 19 or 23, 53 up front. And I just stay in those gears in this area unless we get across some steep, real steep climbs. I use the 23 or the 21 if it gets above 3%, if I can spin. We begin to go up, and I'm not sure if it's on this climb where I think it's this one. Yeah, those guys on the right, they're with us. We had been waiting for them.
Mechanical, who has?
Don't stop on the hill. Let's win.
He has.
So Mark says mechanical. Those guys on the right, somebody dropped the chain.
Yeah.
So I asked Mark.
Yeah.
I asked Mark if they're with us, and he said yeah. But then here's the thing: those guys up ahead of me, they're still riding.
That was Mark, mechanical.
His name is Mark?
Oh, was it?
No, I think it's Randy. Guy in the blue jersey.
Yeah, I mixed the guy up with Randy. He and Randy got the same jersey. I don't have his name, but it's not Randy. It's the guy who was spinning the wheel at the stop there. Dropped the chain.
Guys on the hills are part of our group that we have.
I didn't want to stop on this hill, so I did a U-turn.
Should be way up here.
Okay.
The guys on the right are part of our group.
Oh,
So I
okay.
asked Mark, I said, are they with us? He said, yeah. You need to come up with, I'll go up with the side.
So this right there, we see them coming.
Looks
So
like it's fixed.
they fixed it. He's put it back on. Need to get that bad boy adjusted. That's all it is. Adjust your limit screws or whatever. Or unless he was changing in an odd chain angle at the time the chain was in an odd angle, that can cause you to drop your chain also.
I had just enough, you know. What I'm learning is how to dose off my effort and get just to be there
Wait,
enough.
slow down. Let this guy go. There's no point in him passing up. Go ahead. But no,
Since we're not really riding, we're just chatting, let this guy go.
because you know that he
So we're just talking, and usually when Paul and I ride alone, we have moments where we just ride and we're having a conversation. So at this point, we're back. The people who are repairing the wheels are back there. So we go ahead and start riding because the other guys, they're still ahead. So we got to catch up. That's how you get your workout. So I decided to stay up here and work hard. So waiting for your mates is not a bad thing. When you wait for them, like here, you chase back, let them sit in. I really like those shorts. Those are the Rafa shorts that I'm wearing, the Pro Team. They're about 4 years old. They look like they're 6 months old. They make good quality stuff, guys. I don't care how you cut it. Now, Castelli's good. I got Castelli also. I've got Ecchio Undo, but Santini, Castelli, and Rafa, those are my 3 favorites at this point. Doesn't mean there aren't other ones out there. I just don't have those in my collection. But those, what I like about them, they have a compressive feel, long in the leg for tall guys. I like my shorts long. Rafa makes a long and a regular. And I got those years ago on sale. So 4 years old, I mean, they look great, they feel great. I like them so much. As soon as I use them, I go ahead and launder them so they're ready for my next serious ride. I use them in the weekend rides or grand fondos. except when I'm wearing the kit, of course, because our Santini shorts rival. Santini shorts are not as long as the Rafa, but they're good, you know. So at this point, Mark comes up. I think he comes up alongside me here, and so I'm not in a hurry to fight the wind. So if he wants to pull, I'm like, cool. So I start to back off slightly on the force on the pedals, aka soft pedaling. He slips to the front. You will see me move somewhat behind him. There. So I can take advantage of the pocket of air he's creating. We're going to be turning soon. I'm aware of that. So never turn down somebody who comes to the front to relieve you. It doesn't make you a tough guy to be the one pulling all the time. Save your energy. You never know when you'll need it. So we're turning left. Check for car. I always check for cars just in case somebody tries to overtake. Be amazed what they do. As I ride behind Mark, we come across a bump. I had to stand at the last minute. I wasn't aware it was there. I mean, but I just saw the piece of asphalt that dropped there. It did a lousy job of patching that particular spot because there was a hole there, even though they had tried to patch it. This road goes up and down, and what we're trying to do is get back up to those guys that rode away. You can see them in the distance up there. My heart rate does not show the true effort. The heart rate is always lagging. We're working harder than zone 2. But the heart rate needs a few moments to catch up. That's why when I train, I focus more on the legs. The heart will take care of itself. The strong legs will drive the heart. So whatever gear I'm in at this point, cadence being in the 80s, is because the road's going up. If I need to spin it faster, I can. I always ride it. There, watch. Look at my cadence. Same gear. Those guys did not like our pace, so they just didn't bother. Guys we started with. That's the guy in the recliner that passed when we're standing and waiting for our mates. And I call it a recumbent bicycle. Sorry, not a recliner. I guess technically it is a reclined position. But It's got a nice bright light on it.
I guess it's training, like you said.
Paul's talking about his training that he does during the week that we talked about. And so in a short while, we decide to let these guys go so we can chat. Because, you know. So I figure we're going to use that opportunity to just kind of catch up. So now that everybody's back together, there's John on the right. He was the first one to go off the front early in the ride. It's Dan. On the left is the guy who dropped the chain on the right. So Paul H is standing here waiting, and I guess he expected a regrouping because this is one of the regrouping points. But those guys rolled, so I turned on the highway. And in a little bit, I just decided I wasn't going to chase up there. I mean, they're not that far, but I decided to I tell the guys in a little while, I said, why don't you guys come around? We're going to slow down. So Paul and I could chat. And then one of the guys said, oh man, we wanted to sit on your wheel, something like that. I'm paraphrasing. And we laughed it off. But I wanted to use this chance for us to talk, you know. Paul was telling me about his training because I had given him some pointers and certain workouts to do, and so I wanted to use the opportunity to catch up on what he's been doing. Now you see I'm out of the saddle this whole time. Look at the line of my bike. I wasn't all over that shoulder, so Paul could still stay on my left. So when you stand, you don't have to be swerving. You should still be able to hold your line in or out of the saddle. So this is where I decided to let those guys know we're slowing down. In a little while they'll come around. I think Paul H is the first one that comes around. Somewhere around here. There. That's Paul H. In his 70s, guys. So no more excuses. You got to get out there. Keep those doctors fired. He takes off. I already told the other guys, I'm like, we're slowing down, so you guys need to go ahead. So this guy who dropped the chain came around, and that's Dan. So I told Paul to let them go. Paul's on their wheel. I told him, let them go so we can talk. And so he backed up. Here, I'll pull.
Hold on for a second.
Let's keep it steady. We'll just do a line and we'll get off the road.
All right. I'm good.
All right.
It's all good. Come on, let's go.
Sure is.
So we're with Dan and Steve. We're headed south on Honia, Egypt. The group split up. A bunch of guys were going longer. We didn't have that many hours this weekend. We needed to get back. Paul had some other family-related things to deal with. I needed to get back on time as well, so I could drop off my daughter. I think she was working, so there's a lot of stuff going on. So we needed to get back. I need to get back by 11. So as you heard me tell them, I told them that we're just going to keep the pace steady here so we can get off this road. We're going, there's wind, the rolling terrain here. We just ride. Like I told, a lot of times I'll just say, I don't worry about the wind. I welcome the wind this time of year because it cools you off. That's why I'm using all these lightweight jerseys as much as possible. The flyweight jersey really makes a difference. Paul says car back, but all that does is lets me know don't pull off the front, don't change your position, just use this part of the lane. I'm staying a little to the right because the wind is from in our face and to the right, although we got those trees there which really is helping. But what this part of the ride, what I want to show is that if you notice, you probably already saw it early in the ride, I don't move around much on my bike. I get in a position, I'm riding, I'm not shifting, squirming, all of that. Once I settle in, because initially if you sit on the bike, maybe your shorts might be bunched up, whatever, you get that sorted. But once you settle in, you shouldn't be moving. So you will see here, I will either be on the tops or in the drops. That's Steve. When you're pulling, you want to, as much as possible, try to be as smooth as you can and call out the obstacle that you come across. Don't ever ride your mate into debris or into a hole, and don't do last minute adjustments or corrections. Everything needs to be gradual. You keep your eyes open, look down the road, see what's coming, and decide how you're going to handle it. Always call it out or point to it. I prefer to do more pointing than speaking when I ride the bike when I'm pulling, because with the wind, people don't understand it. You see what I'm doing? I'm letting them know. I suggest, and then you see Dan stayed to the right. He knows this road, so he knew what I was talking about. You can either stay on the edge of the road or where I am. I prefer to use where I am the faster I go, but it's your call. But when you're at the front, you at least need to point to obstacles. So I'm still on the tops, on the hoods. It's a more comfortable position. I am not trying to be very aero. I want the workout, so I'm staying a little up. But when the speed matters, all I have to do in that position is bend my elbow to keep my forearms 90 degrees to the road. That makes me more aero. But right here, it's not slowing me down much. See, Dan stayed on the right. Look at the road, it's all chewed up there. That car blew his horn, so I waved out. And then the driver said something when they went by. I didn't really make it out. But, we're using the lane here.
Yeah, that's all I can do.
That's what Paul's talking about. I think Dan said something regarding them blowing the horn. They were blowing the horn because I waved everybody over and people had to move left to get around, so they don't trust us to stay in our lane. And they've seen cyclists do kamikaze stuff, So when they blow their horns at you, it's not always because they're being jerks. It's because they don't believe that you're serious and that you know what you're doing. They think you're reckless. So just keep that in mind. Don't take it personally. But this is what we did on Saturday. I hope you all got a chance to get out and get your K's in and keep those doctors fired.